Hello, everybody. I do love coming to the Quorum because these guys over the past couple of years have worked really hard to create a safe space for intellectually stimulating conversations, complex conversations, candid conversations, and fun conversations. Also, what works for me here is that they tend to prefer light over sound and fury, and I like that. But today, I'm especially excited because imagine the chance to speak face to face, heart to heart, one on one with one of India's most articulate young politicians. Aaditya Thackeray, I think, truly speaks for his generation. And not just that, what is particularly interesting to me is that his short career so far as a career politician, as a someone in electoral politics has been a trial by fire. He has faced and is facing an existential crisis. He represents a party that is facing an existential crisis, which is really, I think, the stuff of the epics, like a story from the Mahabharata or maybe a Shakespearean drama. I would imagine this is exactly what epics are about. So Aditya, I'm delighted to be doing this conversation. I'm glad Priyanka and Ravi made this happen for us today. And one small disclosure. Of course, I'm interested and excited about this conversation as an editor and as a journalist, but I have a vested interest. And that is, as a second-generation Mumbaikar, I've spent most of my life, I've grown up in the geographical heart of your party, which is Shivaji Park. So I'm interested today not just as a journalist, but as a Mumbaikar and a citizen of this city.
Hopefully you'll be kind. And easy.
Okay. I don't know about kind and easy, but I know we
Get
have
that off the record without the mic.
a lot of ground to cover. So shall we start?
Absolutely.
Any disclosures you want to start with?
Not really. It's all out there in the open, so there's nothing to disclose further.
Am I overstating the case when I say that what you and Mr. Uddhav Thackeray and your party has gone through since last year, it's pretty much like you're living out an epic?
Could be. I keep joking to my friends that it could be a Netflix drama. But the word you used, epic, only a dramatic epic is read 1,000 years later. So we're lucky to be a part of this. And thing to be read 1,000 years later about is something that you have to live. Obviously, we've seen the past few years as crazy ups and crazy downs, and that happens in public life. But for us, this moment is not about us. This is not about our party. This is not about us. It's about whether India's democracy survives or not, whether our constitution is upheld or not, whether each of us, and you happen to also mention that you have a safe space for intellectually stimulating conversations. But if this goes out, whether you are safe or not is the question, really. You've got the central agencies, you've got the central government looking at you, you've got the state government looking at you. Everything that you do is being monitored today. And everything is being seen in the light of right or wrong. There's no gray area. There's no free space for citizens. I think that is the bigger issue for us today. We're under a government right now that is unconstitutional. We're fighting a constitutional battle in the Supreme Court. But for 9 months now, you have a government that's going amok, taking decisions, spending money left, right, center. And you don't know whether it's a legal or an illegal government. So this really is a question on whether democracy in our country survives or not, and whether 2024 will be the last election for India or not.
That's a dire picture. And that is exactly the way you see it? Or are you overstating the case because your political survival is at stake?
Understating the case, because you look at every state that is being ruled by a party that is not in sync with the government of India today. In terms of the political party and the ideology ruling that. Look at the newspapers there, and look at the amount of the central agencies interfering. Look at the governors that are interfering in those things. I just met a chief minister from a different state last week, and he was mentioning to me that to hold a regular budget session, the governor has withheld him from doing that, which is not even constitutional. And he had to go to the Supreme Court to hold a budget session. Now, is this not a direct threat to a democracy, where elected chief ministers are being dictated terms to by governors who are appointed by an office that is outdated, by an office that is only supposed to be there as a ceremonial office to swear you in. And that is where we are. We were victims of, say, something that was a great plot that was hatched, say, behind our backs or wherever. Other states realized from that. Mr. Nitish Kumar learned from our mistakes. He saved himself. The other states that are being ruled by opposition parties, so as to say, are also looking at us and trying to make way from this whole fog. But today, where we stand is whether you have an opposition voice, whether you have a free voice, whether you have a voice that is independent of the view of the government of India. And that is the real question. Because politicians come and go, parties come and go, we may not be here tomorrow. But where will you be? As politicians, we are being raided. Our voice is being stifled. But you're also now seeing journalists being raided and the voice being stifled. That is really the problem for our country.
You said something in that answer just now. People have learned from our mistakes. What were those mistakes?
They found a better friend, politically.
I want to know if you could let us into your mind, into a little bit of the workings at that time. Because when you look back at that very dramatic, the MLAs being spirited away, first to Gujarat, then to Assam, and then back via Goa, if I could remember right. When you look at that, how did y'all not know? Why were y'all sleeping at the wheel? Because y'all have worked with the BJP in an alliance for several years. You know them better than anybody else. How and why did y'all think that y'all wouldn't be the target of a conspiracy like this?
Multiple factors. One, that the BJP that we have worked with, Mr. Vajpayee's BJP, that was way different from the BJP we know today. Today's BJP is not someone who follows the constitution. Today's BJP of the state is not someone who believes in a constitution or in courts or in justice or in administration. Dialogue and friendship and coexistence is a different ballgame altogether. That's not even in the remotest periphery of their politics. Secondly, no one would have imagined that something like this, where people are selling themselves, selling their old souls and running away to a different state, trying to topple a government of a person who's given you everything, right from your political identity to tickets to ministries like the UD, would run away. And three, we were not
UD
sleeping.
Is urban development.
Urban development. And three, we were not sleeping. Of course, in around November, December last year, that's 2021, when my father underwent a surgery, he had to undergo another surgery, which was an emergency operation for another thing back then. 2 surgeries obviously had him completely on the bed rested, and the doctors were not letting anyone meet him because he was in a bubble. It was in this time that Mr. Shinde actually took advantage, started meeting our MLAs, started paying them big offers, and this whole thing of 50 khoke ekdam okay has become very popular, which means 50 crores ekdam okay. Yeah. And no one denies from them. None of those 40 can deny that they've not touched a crore. At least publicly they have never said this. But once this has happened, they basically started conspiring because one by one, all of them that they had tried to digest whatever they had earned or got or tried to hide something, they were trying to hide further and they couldn't hide anymore. 20th May was the day my father had called Mr. Shinde to Varsha and asked him what is going on. And he cried saying, no, I'm yours, I'm your man, I can't do this, I won't backstab you, but there are agencies against me, I don't want to go to jail and this and that, and I'm just only telling them to keep them quiet. 20th June, he's bounced. So a person who you've actually groomed for 20 years, you've given tickets to, you've given him one of the best ministries that no chief minister has given to any other person. If that man can backstab you, we said, okay, whoever wants to go, whoever sold their soul can go, because we don't want to keep people with us who are thinking in their way, are physically with us and mentally with them, or their heart is with them. Whoever wants to go, go. And the fact is, we never ran away. We are here as we were. We did what we did, and everything is in front of the people. So that is the story, plain and simple. And basically, one by one, even today when I look at them and when I look at their faces in the assembly, they can't look back at me in the eyes. But they know that they've done something wrong, and they start looking here and there, and they know their careers are over now. Because if you look at the constituencies, no one is really giving them shelter. No one is supporting them. Because they know that they've sold Maharashtra, they've sold their souls, and that is not acceptable.
one more question about the past, because I've really, I mean, this story is something that has, I mean, it's a story to us, not to you. It's your lived experience. But do you think, Mr. Thackeray resigning as quickly as he did, moving out of Varsha with alacrity, do you think in the real in the world of real politic, those kind of, that maybe he could have played it another way, and I'm using the word played it very cynically?
The fact is, he's not a real politician. None of us are. And that's why probably in the past 2.5 years, when we were working as the government of Maharashtra, we've never made a political statement against anyone. We've never raided anyone. We've never really troubled anyone with notices from the police or whatever. We've never harassed the opposition. The other fact is, maybe that could have been played that way, but he is someone who goes by the heart. And I remember him doing a Facebook Live, telling the people what happened. And in that Facebook Live, he said, I'm leaving Varsha. And we just left in the next half an hour. We just packed everything we could and left in the next half an hour. I didn't even go back. My father's not gone back to pack our bags further. Whatever was brought out. And he said, Aditya, what doesn't belong to us anymore? There's no point sticking to it. It was never ours. It's always temporary. It's something that belongs to the people. Whenever the people will, whenever the God wills, we'll be back. And again, the point really is, what's the point sticking on? If you've known that your own people, who you gave everything to, betrayed you, you want to leave that. Thankfully, the common man, the common people, everyone around us has cushioned us. And that is a huge support system across the world now. Wherever we go, people have known what has happened. People have seen what has happened. And that's a huge comforting factor for us.
So I find it interesting because it's very clear that there is a moral high ground that Mr. Thackeray has adopted, that y'all say that you have approached this entire crisis with. What's your view of the public, of the janta, of the Aam Aadmi? Do you think that there is an appreciation for morality in politics, or do you think, where people have become very primed to electoral victory, to strategizing, to Chanakya Niti, as the Hindi channels would say, and something that has been seen as very admirable, isn't it? Statecraft, political craft. Do you think the public is appreciative of a moral approach to politics?
I think in Maharashtra, if you see till date, people have never appreciated vindictive politics. People have never appreciated character assassination. People have never stood by personal politics of hate, vengeance, disruption. People have always stood by someone who comes across as clean and true and genuine. That's what we have believed, and we've always been like that. For us to change is very difficult. Like I said, look at the COVID work we've done, look at the work for the state we've done, or even for the city of Mumbai. The only selfish factor in that was that my state is going ahead and my city is going ahead. Politics can be seen as different ways. It can be seen in different perspectives. Statecraft, realpolitik, Chanakya Niti, all of that is true, and it may benefit the people who are benefiting out of it. But for that, do you sell your morals? Do you sell your soul? Do you change yourself? Is a question we need to ask ourselves. You are who you are. You are either accepted or rejected for who you are. If you start changing for something like Chanakya Niti, then what are you living for? You have to believe in certain principles and live by them, lead by them. If people don't believe in you, they will reject you.
This sounds very idealistic. Do you think there is, and again I use the word very carefully and cynically perhaps, do you think there's a market for this kind of politics?
I hope there is. And we're not selling anything in the market, but I hope that people support us. People have supported all through. People have given the love all through. And now whenever it's the time for elections, people will stand by us.
So, give us a sense of what is happening on the ground. I know that, I heard Uddhav Thackeray's, Mr. Uddhav Thackeray's speech in Khed. I have heard your recent speech in Burli. And thanks to being a Mumbaikar, I can understand everything that you're saying. So that's really, it's fun to really, because, when you speak in Marathi or Hindi or Bengali, there is so much flavor and nuance. And Mr. Thackeray's speeches are just great fun, besides being very pungent. So the question is that what is the status with the Shakhas? What is the status with the Sainiks? Because growing up in Mumbai, and anybody who's a Mumbaikar knows the strength of the Shiv Sena is the Sainik.
The status is simple. They've taken our party name, they've taken our logo, they're trying to take our Shakhas, and I think recently the Chief Minister visited Delhi to check if he could take our surname Thackeray so that, it helps him.
Shiv Sena has had this practice.
It's true.
You all have this practice, anybody who's been in Mumbai, of the blackboard, right? The blackboard which does the ghoshna, whatever. So interestingly, and that's what I'm fumbling for in my phone, I see this, like a version of the blackboard. Will you read it out?
Yeah, exactly.
It's a whiteboard.
It says Nirnay kahi asudyat amchi nishtha matushri va Thackeray kutumbya sobat.
Yeah.
Which is what I said.
So this is Shakha number 190. Ekshe number. Right? So, yeah. So my point is that in the Shakhas that you have across Maharashtra, how do you know whether everybody is with you, what proportion is with you, what percentage is with you? Because so far, and I think we need a round of applause for the fact that we haven't seen gundagardi, fights, within the Shiv Sena on the road. And anybody, yeah, thank you. And I think we do need to credit you and Uddhav Thackeray ji for this very peaceful outcome of what has happened in the last year in Mumbai. And very respected journalists who really know Mumbai, and I've spoken to some of them, and they're like, this change that you see in the Shiv Sainiks, this being peaceful, this holding back, is something that is credited to the work that your father has done. How have you all managed that? How come, I hope this round of applause is not premature, because we know the BMC elections will happen at some point. We don't know when, but some point. And before that happens, will we see, maramari?
Ask what Priyanka ji thinks. She doesn't necessarily agree with this. No, joking. But look, I mean, the thing is, there are two aspects to it. One was, of course, the metamorphosis of the party that we were speaking about inside. And Uddhavji believes that there's a phase for everything. You have a work, like, for example, if you're a sculptor, you're making a statue. A sculptor has to use a hammer and chisel for making the statue. But after the statue is made, if you start using more hammer and more chisel, it's going to break further. Once it's carved out, you don't need the hammer and chisel. The other fact on the ground is, today, these 40 gaddars that we call them, and who they are basically, they are trying to take over the Shakhas. They're trying to, beat thugs on the ground, try to bully people, try to hit people. Now the fact is, if they hit, of course they have to be shown their place. But, and that's going to be a natural reaction. But for us, we have maintained our peace, we have maintained our calm, because we know that they currently are in this mind or space of mind where they think that they are the gods of the world. They believe that they have this big, huge Mahashakti backing them. They have the central agencies in their hand, the police in their hand, and the police really is being used literally for everything, right from election purposes to trying to bully people to join them. I can give you 5 or 6 examples where police PIs, senior inspectors, have been calling up our people and saying, the Chief Minister called me, you have to go there. In Kasba, the candidate was actually sitting for a hunger strike for 48 hours because the police machinery was being used to distribute money. Now, this is how they've captured all the institutions. The point really is, where do we go as a state further? And while this is happening, there's blatant corruption happening on the other side. For example, you mentioned the BMC, right? Now, the BMC is long due for elections. And the fact is, when you ask me where the Shakhas stand or where the people stand, the fact of the matter is very, very clear. Had their surveys shown them that the surveys are with them, the people are with them, they would have gone for elections. They love election victories. But today the surveys are not with them. The people are not with them. And therefore,
So the delay is...
the delay is only because the surveys are not showing their victory. And imagine we have an unelected administrator in the BMC for a year now, who is running the show opaquely without elected representatives in the BMC. I pulled out...
And this is the municipal commissioner who you have
We brought in
worked
for
with.
COVID, and he's done
Yeah.
great work in COVID. But in non-COVID times and under a different dictatorship, is he being able to do work? Is a different ballgame altogether. I raised this issue about Mumbai's roads. Mumbai's roads, they've put out a tender for 6,080 crores.
Oh man, Mumbai's roads.
No,
Don't
I'm
go
coming
there,
to that.
Aditya, don't go there.
I'm coming to that. We have to go there because there's a huge scam in that. I raised this question about 400 crores of concretization. You don't need all roads to be concretized. You cannot have all roads to be concretized. Nowhere in the world, no city in the world has all roads concretized. You have a mixture of asphalt mastic, UTWT, which is white topping, and then concrete, cement concrete. They're trying to get 400 kilometers of roads concretized within a year, which is impossible because we're already in March.
Because the promise Mr. Shinde made as chief minister is no potholes within a year.
Yeah, he's made multiple promises, but to multiple people, right from top, bottom, everywhere. So the point is this, that you cannot finish 400 kilometers of roads in 3 months. You have to wrap up your work by 31st May. You cannot spend 6,000 crores on 400 kilometers where you have 48% above work given to contractors. And when I said it's 48% above, it's above the 40% revised estimate. You're giving 8% above to all these contractors. The BMC said, no, now we're not giving 8% more, we'll give it at 40% at par. We've saved 425 crores there just by the deduction. For a city like Mumbai, they're giving contractors 650 crores in advance. For what? Never in the last 100 years of the BMC has the BMC given advance mobilization fund for roads in Mumbai where you have 43 utilities under your ground and you've got to coordinate with 16 other agencies and the traffic police that doesn't give you permissions beyond 50 meters. So what are you giving this bonanza to for the contractors? Likewise, the street furniture, 300 crores tender. For what? Benches? I mean, that's something that the local corporate and the local MLA has to buy. Look at what is happening in the city. Last month, this whole hula-hoo about 90,000 crores surplus of the BMC, right? When we took over the BMC in 1997, that was 25 years ago, the BMC was in a deficit of 600 crores. We've done financial planning for the BMC and brought it up to 90,000 surplus, 90,000 crores surplus. But along with that, we've not raised a single tax. We've had the cheapest water supply across India as Mumbai, way before Delhi did that. Today, the BST is running 3,337 buses. We're expanding that to 10,000 electric buses.
And you have your EV,
double-decker EV. Exactly, and it's flat fare. 5 rupees for 5 kilometers, 10 for 10, 15 for 15, the cheapest across the world. 500 square feet houses have no property tax. The coastal road that we are making, southbound coastal road, that the BMC planned, we started, is toll-free. At the same time, the one that MSRDC is planning has 4 tolls on it. So if we can do it as the BMC and take Mumbai into a 90,000 crore surplus, what is wrong in that? This whole idea of surplus doesn't help development is absolutely wrong because surplus is tied, every penny is tied to some work. 12,000 crores was tied for coastal road, 8,000 crores for Goregaon Mulund Link Road, almost 15,000 crores for sewage treatment plants that the government of India has now decided to inaugurate, which we started. So essentially, every penny had been tied to a certain project. But now these guys are spending BMC money left, right, center, which is yours and my money. There is no answerability, there's no accountability. That is my problem today. When I say that democracy is in danger, exactly this, that today we are not getting answers for the questions we ask.
But this is unprecedented, right? To have an administrator run Mumbai for so long.
It is.
Which is what the current
After COVID, it is. I mean, COVID times, we had that because, of course, you cannot have elections. The other thing yesterday that the BMC has done is in one garden in Juhu, they have issued a notice.
Parking.
No yoga. No, that is different. Underground parking is a whole different thing altogether. They've said in an open public space, no yoga, no music, no exercise. Now, what are public parks for? And how can you run a city like that?
What really... I mean, I can hear the frustration. I can hear the anger.
And again, sorry, I'm just interrupting you, but this frustration is the frustration as a Mumbaiker. It's not about a political party or an MLA or was in government, now not in government. We've always been in opposition, so there's zyada farak nahi hai.
And you've also for 25 years run Mumbai.
Yeah.
So was there a different, after y'all after you became a part of electoral politics, after you became part of the government of Maharashtra, was your approach to Mumbai different? Because your party has run Mumbai for 25 years, and yet in the 2.5 years when you were part of the MVA government and ran the MVA government, your approach to Mumbai seemed to me to be different. I don't know if that's the perception here.
Different as in
what
better?
Was the difference? It was better.
How many live
But
in
why
Worli?
why is that? Because you ran the BMC, so you can't say 25 years.
No, exactly. I'll tell you
can't
why.
forget that.
I'll tell you why. How many live in Worli? Thank you. And I hope you all are okay with what's happening in Worli. Thank you. So the question really is, when we work as state government, and I've seen this very closely in the past 2.5 years, Mumbai is a dot on the radar of the state government, because every day you wake up, and especially in the Chief Minister's house, some crisis has erupted somewhere. Someone sitting on a hunger strike, some protest is happening somewhere, some accident has happened, some cloudburst has happened somewhere, and Mumbai really gets nothing out of it. Because Mumbai, every time there's a discussion on Mumbai in the cabinet, every minister like, हाँ Mumbai देख लेगी ना BMC है. Now, ये देख लेगी ना was a problem, because why should we as Mumbaikars be left out of the larger Maharashtra story? We're a part of the same growth story. We're a part of the same state. We're the capital of the same state. Why should we be left out? In our times, the chief minister was a pure-hearted Mumbaikar. True blue blood Mumbaikar, or Mumbai blood rather. All of us, 5 ministers in the cabinet were from Mumbai. And for us, Mumbai was of foremost importance. A lot of times people commented on my social media timeline saying, Aaditya, you're tweeting a lot about Mumbai. And I'm like, yeah. Check the past 75 years, we've never been tweeted about. I mean, Twitter wasn't there for 75 years, but we've never been spoken about. नहीं तो ट्रोल शुरू हो जाएंगे, कि 75 years पहले कहाँ था Twitter. So नेहरू जी ने Twitter नहीं शुरू किया था. So the question really was, where does Mumbai stand? Now I'll give you a simple example.
But Aditya,
I'll give you a simple example. I'll hold you there and give you a simple example. Have you traveled on the Western Express Highway? Or the Eastern Express Highway?
both.
Yeah? Do you know who it belongs to?
MSRDC?
Now, it typically and traditionally belongs to the National Highway Authority of India. Subleased to PWD, subleased to MSRDC for 3 flyovers. The rest is MMRDA. There are 2 flyovers built by the PWD. One flyover, there is a name called MRDD. Nobody knows which organization is that. And to put a cross duct for a sewage line also, you need to take permissions from the top to bottom. Mumbai is run by 16 agencies. You've got the BMC, but along with the BMC, you've got MHADA, MMRDA, SRA, Western Railway, Central Railway, Harbour. You've got Airports Authority of India. For example, MITI. To work on the MITI takes you 7 or 8 different agencies. My job as Mumbaikar and Mumbai's Guardian Minister was that every Wednesday, we would sit together, everyone in the same room, and check on what is going wrong where, what is going wrong, what is going right, and whether all the departments are working together. Forest is one of the departments. Mumbai has a forest of its own. Some people don't get water because the forest hasn't given permission. I'll give you a simple example of the Mahim Causeway. You must have traveled on that for a long, long time. Now, there was one meeting I was holding with the Mangrove Cell and the BMC, because there were 6 flyovers we are planning, Mud, Versova and all of those, so they need Mangrove Cell permission. So suddenly the BMC engineer is like, sir, 4 साल से एक परमिशन इनके पास पेंडिंग है, जरा बोल दो ना इनको करने को. हमने कौन सा पेंडिंग है? नहीं सर, वो माहिम कॉजवे बहुत वीक हो गया, डिलैपिडेटेड है, गिर सकता है, उसके लिए लाइक 4 साल से पेंडिंग है डिलैपिडेटेड स्ट्रक्चर को. So we had a meeting together, and within 24 hours the issue was solved and the work is going on. So the point is, we should sit over the coastal road, the Worli-Shivdi connector, the MTHL, the Western Express Highway, get everyone in the same place,
So
and weekly meetings on that.
So I hear the passion, I hear the candor, and I also hear what a Mumbaikar brings to the table when he's minister and guardian minister, etc., etc. But Aditya, we cannot forget that Uddhav Thackeray and a Thackeray may not have been chief minister in the past, but has had the control over Maharashtra government several times in the past. So why did Mumbai get short-shrifted? I'm saying you need to convince me a little bit more to, help me understand a little bit better.
I'll tell you
what changed.
Exactly. Change was Chinese whispers got away, and we sat in the seat. From 95 to 99, when we were in the seat, we were planning the ceiling right up to Nariman Point. Government change happened till Worli. The 55 flyovers that happened in Mumbai were 95 to 99. A lot of things changed during then. Then came, of course, a different government with a different perspective. I won't blame them now because they're allies, but... And then there was another government from 14 to 19. They were also allies at one point, so let me not get into the blame game. But koi Mumbai kar nahi tha. Now, if you see, once we got into power, from 2019 onwards, you must have seen the viewing deck at Valkeshwar.
I've been on it.
You must have seen the viewing deck at Shivaji Park.
Yeah.
You must have seen a couple of more viewing decks that were under construction, stopped now. The buses that have changed, the bus stops that have changed, the footpaths that we prioritized, the parks that we
The
prioritized.
race course getting sort of cleaned up and a
Yes.
view of the race course,
We opened-
which you didn't get earlier.
Exactly. So my perspective again in that was basically nowhere in the world do you have parks and gardens looking like jails. You've got to break the walls. You've got to be able to see through, walk through. That's what we started doing. In fact, pedestrians were prioritized. I said, please, no more skywalks. Those are hideous. Let's get the pedestrians on the ground.
Not just
नहीं,
hideous.
but अभी वापस शुरू हो गया है. So we need to
No,
work on that.
No, and the skywalks were not just hideous; they were not used.
No,
We
they're for ad agencies. They're not for people.
Yeah, we all know. We all know that to climb up to cross the road is just illogical, right?
Exactly.
So whether you go to 60 feet road, which is the Dharavi road, or you do the linking road, none of those skywalks
Now,
are
if you come to
ever
Worli,
used.
the BDD Chawl was promised by successive governments for 25 years. Nothing happened. We got that moving and now the work is going on. So basically we thought that let's look at Mumbai through a Mumbai perspective. Hind Mata. Now through BMC's perspective, we've tried to work on Hind Mata for years and years.
The
flooding spot.
waterlogging.
And every year we used to go there and our photos used to come in the paper saying, ऐसे करके, पहले पानी इधर तक था, फिर इधर तक हो गया, फिर इधर तक हो गया. उसके आगे कुछ नहीं होता था. So I took everyone, right from the collector to the BMC to everyone, and I said, we have to solve this problem. Now there's an underground rainwater holding tank at St. Xavier's Ground Parel. Gandhi Market and Hind Mata did not flood last year. Milan Subway, another flooding spot. We took over the ground next door. We said, let's make an underground holding tank, restore the ground on top, and it won't flood from this year. The thing is, if you start looking at interventions, minor interventions, you don't need to spend big money on that. You don't need to think through a contractor's perspective. Think through a citizen's perspective. Think through a Mumbaiker's perspective. कि यार traffic का problem कितना हो सकता है, चलने को कितनी तकलीफ होगी, dust कितनी होगी. If you start putting all these calculations together, the BMC will run well, the state will run well. Essentially, you need the state to be backing the BMC because the BMC on its own is a beautiful machinery. But if you have the state power or give all the power to the BMC will do wonders.
Wow. Okay. So the question now is, how do we get you guys back? Because
Elections
so
or the Supreme Court.
no. So here is the interesting thing that very clearly. The Shiv Sena has changed in front of our eyes, okay? It's still a tiger, but this tiger's stripes seem to have changed. I want you to tell me, and you use that analogy of the sculptor and you use the hammer and chisel when you're creating it, but after it's ready, you don't use the same things to shine it, let's say, okay? But the Shiv Sena that Mr. Thackeray, Uddhav Thackeray oversaw and you have been part of, it's very different from the Shiv Sena that your grandfather Balasaheb Thackeray created.
I think the media perspective is different now.
Is it?
The media people are seeing it differently. But look, I mean,
look, we all know, Mumbaikars
giving you a proper description of that, it's that we've always been relevant to the issues of that particular decade. 60s, 70s, 80s needed that. 90s, 2000s needed something else. You've got to be relevant to the decade. As a political party, you have to voice the people of today. A lot of us as political parties, even today, and I say that for all of us as a political class, we're fighting over if someone who said something 50 years ago was right or wrong, if someone who was born here is right or wrong, if someone was, this one or that one, ये सब ठीक है. This is for the historians to judge.
Cities, no?
But agreed. But who is talking about the future? Who is fighting for the future? Who's talking about the present? While we look at our historical legacy, and we must, I'm not saying it is something that is completely redundant, it's something that we hold pride in, that is our identity, that is true. A lot of us in the post-colonial world are trying to give us a different identity, and that is fine. But while we do that, we also need to think of the future generation that will judge us by saying, did you only change your identity or did you leave something for us? That is very relevant today.
So, one of the things that Mr. Shinde, our chief minister, said about...
Do you think he's the real chief minister?
Well, I'm not a politician. I'm not
Or do
a
you think the
politician.
person sitting next to him is also the chief minister?
When they call me as a guest to Quorum, you can do the interview. But till then, I'm going to discretion is the better part of valor, as they say. But my question is, one of the things, let's take it at face value, okay? But one of the things the chief minister.
That's an easy way to get out of that face value.
One of the things Mr. Shinde has said is that the party that Mr. Uddhav Thackeray is leading is not the Shiv Sena he signed up for. Okay, so something has changed. Clearly, this working style has changed, right? No gundagardi on the road, which your party did.
No, those were protests. I mean, you
Protests, so yeah.
see, I'll tell you, it's always termed as something or the other, but you have to protest for things you believe in.
I really wish I had invited Nikhil Wagle because
but
he has been roughed up so many times by you guys.
But he's the one who's single-handedly today fighing for us.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
which is why I brought him up, because that shift in his perspective, or what.
देखो, I mean, हमारे friends भी तो shift हो गए हैं. So नए दोस्त बना लिए.
So no, but I bring him up because he is really, he's seen you guys and the party up close, has been at the receiving end. He's been roughed up as editor of Mahanagar, and today he is there saying that you guys deserve to run this government or run this state. Okay, so that's very interesting, and it's a measured perspective. It is not just, it's not an emotional perspective, and it's a conditional support also. Having said that, what I'm trying to get at is how, when Mr. Shinde says that this is not the party he signed up for or he was part of, Hindutva is no longer on the agenda, but I do hear Mr. Uddhav Thackeray say Bhagwa flag is already with us, the Mashal will also, help. I think the question I'm getting at is, how is the Hindutva that you and your father and your team see different from the way the BJP sees Hindutva? Because you've not given up Hindutva.
So every time you ask me about this past and present, this thought that comes to my mind about when I see the 40 of them, I think it's in Dilwale where Shah Rukh says, "Hum sharif ke hue, puri duniya hi badmash hui." So 40 को देख के ऐसे लगता है, लेकिन see, the fact of, again, this whole thing is, he went there for a personal purpose. He went there to save himself from jail. He went there to save himself from further raids, and a couple of his colleagues were raided in January, February, and that is out there everywhere. When you look at his reasons for running away, the first thing he said was, we don't have a voice in the government. He was urban development minister. He was one of the most important ministers. Then he said, we don't get enough funds from Mr. Ajit Pawar. Ajit Dada read out the amount of funds that they've got. Then they said the NCP is trying to finish us. And then we read out where all we've contested, where all NCP's contested. Then he finally landed on Hindutva. Then I think he's gone on caste today. He's gone on, and one day he'll land up on my blue shirts. I keep saying this every time, that because Aditya wears blue shirts, I hopped over. But for him, sitting tight and cozy for 2.5 years was absolutely fine. Doing everything that he did was absolutely fine. And suddenly one fine day he wakes up and says, oh, now this is not the party I can identify with. How sensible is that even? How logical is that? I mean, you've gone there to save yourself. Because you were raided and you had a lot of skeletons in your cupboard, you've gone there. Now today you're blaming us for shifting away from whatever we've believed in. We've always remained the same. My father's always said that the Hindutva we believe in is always the Hindutva that we've believed in. So, and going with the Congress and NCP, as a chief minister also, we've said we are Hindutva people. You may be your perspective, and this is what a democracy is all about. Because if you can have different voices, if you can have different ideologies work together for the people, for the state, that is what a democracy is.
Is the BJP's Hindutva different from the Shiv Sena, Uddhav, Balasaheb Thackeray?
Oh, absolutely, because
Hindutva.
we don't tell people what to eat.
What is the difference?
We don't tell people what to eat, not to eat. We don't tell people whether to go to a temple or not to go to a temple. If you believe in, you can have a temple in your own house. You can have God in your own self. You can see God in other people. We don't tell people what color to wear and not to wear. We don't get offended by colors. And primarily, we don't burn people over thinking that you're carrying beef. I think that is the biggest differentiator. And about Hindutva, if this man had something to do with it, My father actually went thrice. We went 3 or 4 times to Ayodhya saying the Ram temple has to come up there. After that, a year after that, the court has given a verdict. But we said, Pehle Mandir Fir Sarkar, when the BJP had forgotten that. I went there recently with all our MPs and MLAs before this gang bounced. And, yeah, and all of them were there with us.
When was the last time you heard an Indian politician say, this gang bounced?
So, it is a gang. So I mean, they do that whole Alibaba and Chalis ka akda pura karte hai. So, we went there. No, I'll tell you another thing. I have great belief in Tirupati. And we, like never before, no other government has given 10 acres. We gave that to Tirupati Temple Trust near Navi Mumbai, near the airport. This government has stayed it. While we did that, we ensured that our Hindutva doesn't create rifts between religion. We ensured that our Hindutva doesn't create rifts between castes and creeds. We don't bring our ideology into whether you will get this much water or that much water. For us, everybody is the same. That is what my religion teaches me, that everyone's blood is red. That's what we believe in.
Okay, I'm going to take a little break and ask if there are questions around, and then we'll tie it up nicely. Yeah. I mean, I can go on, but
no questions is a great thing. I mean, all queries are answered. I think there's one behind there.
So, just to sort of get a perspective, Mumbai is the financial capital of India. Somehow there've been attempts to sort of take a part of it and put it in Ahmedabad and Gandhinagar with a IFC. Why can't we get a IFC in Bombay? I'm sure you'll have a very easy answer, but
I've already raised this query with the government of India, and I said, why don't we get a financial center? We had it here at BKC. That land was put in Gandhinagar to the gift city, or it's taken to Gujarat, and we've given that parcel of land free of cost to the bullet train. And for the same type of work, where we need one pillar to be placed on a railway land for a metro coming up, Metro 2B or something, the Railways is asking us for 900 crores. So what we are giving free in BKC, the Railways is asking us for 900 crores. Now, essentially, if you look at what's happened in the past 6 months also, Vedanta Foxconn, 1.49 lakh crores, something that we worked on very, very closely and was coming to Talegaon near Pune, has gone off to Gujarat, has been sent to Gujarat. Medical device park, bulk drug park, given to Gujarat plus 3 states. No problem of it going to Gujarat or any other state. No heartburn there. But the fact is, if it was coming to Maharashtra, why not also give it to Maharashtra along with Gujarat and any other state? Airbus Tata, gone there. 5 or 6 big industries have been sent there. So typically when the CM or the DCM say today that we are building the infrastructure so that there's development, we are already building roads, but where does the road lead to? Nowhere. We need something to go to. We need a destination. And you're absolutely right when you say that, why don't we as the financial capital get that? But if you look at the list of what's gone or shifted from here in the past 9 years, there's a huge list. I heard even cement, ACC has shifted from Mumbai to Ahmedabad. So everything is being moved from here. Whereas this, again, is the natural capital for economics and finance.
But we are not the startup capital. We missed that opportunity, and that didn't happen in the last 2.5 years.
No. I'll tell you what. So if you put the numbers together, basically Maharashtra's startup capital number doesn't go high because our startups are divided between Mumbai, Pune, Navi Mumbai, Thane. If you put all of them together, then Maharashtra is still the startup capital. Whereas for other states, it's only one city. That's why the numbers show higher than us.
Okay, I'll have to do a fact check on that.
Send it to you.
I don't. But okay. No. So listen. Now, if we were to say that we lost these projects as Maharashtrians and in Maharashtra because Gujarat had electoral politics at stake and political victories were necessary. Well, we've got, I don't know about whether this government makes it to its full term, but if it does, then October next year we should have elections in Maharashtra. So we'll get projects.
No, that is my exact point. See, if today they're claiming it's a double engine ki sarkar, hamari engine to theek chal rahi thi. During COVID times, from June 2020 to June 2022, before our government fell, we've got 6.5 lakh crores. In fact, the current industries minister challenged us on that, and the Times of India did a fact check of all the MOUs signed. They tried to see how many MOUs have been, implemented and have materialized on ground. 93% of them have materialized on ground. There were two industries that came from China, two investments that came from China, and the MEA said, without putting anything on paper, saying don't accept them right now. We said, okay, they're in the cold storage back burner. This government, when they've changed the government in the way that they have, and when they've got the same government at the top and bottom here, why did you take projects away from us? You should have given it to Maharashtra and given them victory, given the Chief Minister victory, claiming credit, saying, look, I came to power and I got all of these projects here. Something like a solar energy equipment park, 400 crores, which we thought was coming 100% to Nagpur. Nagpur is the hometown of Mr. Devendra Fadnavis. They should have claimed victory for that, has been given to Madhya Pradesh because there's an election coming this year. 400 crores. Textile park coming to Amravati, we don't know where it'll go. I'm not even talking of the bulk drug park and the medical device park. These are big ones. 400 crores bhi Maharashtra ko nahi aata hai. तो गवर्नमेंट बदली क्यों यानी आपकी इंजन फेल हो गई है हमारी तो ठीक चल रही थी डिस्पाइट द सेम गवर्नमेंट बीइंग इन सेंटर वी वर वर्किंग फाइन विद देम
Okay.
I have a question to ask.
Yeah.
No, this is Wali here. Hi. So my question is, what is your vision for Maharashtra when you come back? And I'm sure you will.
See, because this is from Worli, this is not planted. Huh? Otherwise you'll think it's planted.
I'm just born and raised here.
Thank you. No, she'll think I've planted this question. I'm joking. Hey, you're from Shivaji Park. I could have planted questions with you as well. Look, I mean, the thing is, first and foremost, today, unfortunately, we are all divided in our minds, starting with our castes, then religions, then regions, then jillas, then talukas. Everyone's just divided today. There's a huge agrarian distress that is happening. At the same time, you look at the urban areas, what we think is development, is it really sustainable? For example, the metros or the highways that we're building, are we planning it for the future or are we creating Zoshimats out of it? That is something for us to think. When we look at development, it has to be with just cause. You need to take the local people along. You need to have a dialogue along. In our times, of course, if you look at the mangroves, we protected almost 11,500 hectares of mangroves in just 10 months. At the same time, we've been able to get 6.5 lakh crores of investment from various sectors of industry, right? From aviation to tourism to all of that. I think everyone has a voice. Everyone's voice has to be heard. The vision has to be simply to reflect the vision of the people and to understand what they want to speak. It cannot be my vision being imposed on you. Then I'm not representing you. If I have to represent you, I have to know what's in your heart, what's in your mind, and what the need of the people is. And as a country also, I think that is very, very relevant to all of us. You look at north to south, east to west, no state is like the other. Today, if you have a single-handed government, a single-party rule in the center, they're not reflective of all the states. We need every voice up there. Democracy can be chaotic, it can be a little bit slow, it can be confusing, but I think it's the best thing we have because everyone is voiced equally and there's no injustice to anyone. I think that chaos is beautiful and we need to accept that we can voice everyone and we need to hear everyone. That is the first and foremost priority. Of course, with that then comes everything else, right? From transport to tourism to healthcare to investments. That all keeps happening. I think what we need today in India is someone in the seat to listen to the people. That's very important.
I have a question to ask. Aditya?
Where is it coming from? Oh, there. Okay.
Sanjeev here. Hi. Glad to make your acquaintance after so many years. My question is, I read the budget, Maharashtra budget, and I was very disappointed. The total fiscal liability on Maharashtra is about 7 lakh crores. And I was dismayed to see that the reverie culture is back with a bang here. Farmers being given 6,000 rupees as a dole, in addition to what the Prime Minister's fund is. But on the other side, if you see, there is no minimum support price for the farmers. We were dismayed to see the onions, which were, farmers who came from Lasangao and elsewhere, they had to burn their fields in Maharashtra because the government didn't take cognizance, this current government, and they had to burn all that. So what's the use of giving that 6,000 rupee dole when you don't have a minimum support price, when you don't have a kind of a mechanism in place to see, well, there's going to be excess production of onions here. How do we divert it to other states or how do we export it? The tragedy is there's a worldwide shortage of onions. I'm just talking that this kind of reverie culture Perhaps you guys need to raise your voice about it. And my second quick question is that what happened is Kaspa Pit, where MBA won as a united MBA, and what happened at Pimpri Chinchpad, where the rebel Shiv Sena candidate undermined the NCP candidate, which was put up by the MBA, where you lost. But if you total up the votes, they were exceeding the BJP vote. So you guys, so these are my two questions. One is, how will you, attend to the contradictions that happen within your party, where you're giving a seat to a particular ally? So that's one. And the second is the farmer issue. Thank you.
Thank you. You've raised both very relevant issues. In fact, the farmer issue I'd love to address first in the budget because, like you said, I was sitting there and trying to hear into what the finance minister is saying, and I could only hear figures being thrown at us, as promises are always. And I was not very worried about it, even though the debt is going to spiral up to 7 lakh crores and things like that, because I know all of it is just fake promises. Nothing's going to come out of it. And just like you have seen this, almost all of us have seen that 7.5 lakh crores debt we're going to be spiraling up to. How are we ever going to fulfill that? It's going to come on your pocket and my pocket finally. The other thing is, while they have, sort of put this whole sugar-clad thing for 6,000 rupees additional to the farmers and also paying the PM Kisan Yojana funds instead of the farmers, they will pay that. The fact of the matter is, the government of Maharashtra has reduced 26% funding to farmers this year through the budget. 7% has been less allocated to the health sector, despite the COVID crisis that we went through. For everything like that, for MMR, they've reduced MMR's money and they've put them into random things everywhere. No city has got anything out of it. So, like you have run through it, almost all of us, and today I've got a note, I'm going to put that out tomorrow or day after. Some of the schemes that they've said are actually schemes from our time. The new schemes that they've actually added thousands of crores up to, we even don't know, neither do they know, where they're going to get the funds from. So even they're like, theek hai, jitne din chalti hai, but this is more or less like an election budget. They know that midterms might be coming soon, and that's why they've sugar-clad the budget, which has not gone down well with the people. The other thing about elections and the Kasba Pet and of course Chinchpad, you absolutely are correct when you pointed out where Kasba, where we came together, we've won.
Yeah.
Chinchpad, where one candidate actually contested, and the candidate has a little bit of a sketchy history because, he was the last 3 years with us. Before that, he was with the NCP. Before that, he was with the BJP. The last election in 2019, he contested as an independent. He had got 112,000 votes, and the NCP had supported him back then. So this time, he thought that he would win, and he had this whole phase that he thought he would win and all. But for us, it's a huge learning that if we come together, we will win. If there is, if there are these cracks here and there will be issues like that. So I think it's a huge learning for us, which we hope to learn and take forward.
And which you'll have to be, very
Prepared
vigilant
for.
about when
Exactly.
BMC elections come up, right?
Pretty much.
I mean, all elections, but the first one hopefully
Yes.
will be the BMC.
Yeah, I have a question here. This side.
Oh, okay. Go
Hi,
ahead
Aditya.
and get a mic here, please, in the meantime.
Hi Aditya. You must be aware of the PMC Bank's scam happened 4-5 years back. The depositors requested Shiv Sena, the political party, to intervene and help the depositors, especially the senior citizens and people. Who had their hard-earned money. But there was not much of a push from your party pushing to the financial ministry to help the depositors. What's your say on this?
No, in fact, back then also, because one of our MLAs is also stuck in the same cycle there. He had invested and his money is gone. I think even Priyanka ji had raised that. We as the government of Maharashtra actually held 2 meetings with the RBI governor as well in 2020 also. But the governor wasn't very positive on helping us buy out the bank as government of Maharashtra. Neither was the governor really too keen on saving it. So that is where it's stuck. It's with the RBI. We couldn't do much on it. I mean, we tried because all of us, most of them are Mumbaikars. Most of them, hard-earned money has gone, and it's a huge issue. But we tried, and we'll keep trying. But if the RBI tells you don't go into it, there's not much you can really get into then.
You've got a question? You got a mic? Yeah.
We will keep trying. We'll keep trying.
You got a mic. Go ahead.
Hi. Because Mumbai is as complicated as it is, and there are various approvals that are required to get anything through, we've been discussing or we've been proposing that there should be a CEO for Mumbai. everyone agrees it's a great idea, it never happens. Why, in your opinion, it never happens? And what is a discussion you've ever heard of why it doesn't happen?
When you're in the seat, you'd love to be the CEO. I mean, not you, as in as government. And that is always the perspective because everything is under your control. But when you start looking at from the outside perspective, like today, effectively we have a CEO where you have an administrator who's not elected. Whether CEO or the mayor, that's always the debate. And I think exactly I agree with you where you need all the powers situated in one seat.
Yeah.
But if it is a mayor, which is empowered mayor,
Yeah.
elected from the people, I think that's always going to be the case where, like the mayor of London, who has plenipotentiary
Yeah.
powers.
All the big cities in the world
You need
have
that.
a CEO or a
So
mayor which
one
is
of the
empowered.
one of the files that we had moved in May before our government fell was to unify all the agencies under one BMC and make BMC the planning authority of Mumbai. Let them work, but the planning authority has to be the BMC. The next thing I was working with, I think the Praja Foundation also, was to look at whether we can empower the mayors across Maharashtra. Because I think one of the issues with our mayors is none of the mayors really are empowered. All of them sit in the ceremonial seat, more or less presiding over the house like the speaker, but they do not have administrative powers. The municipal commissioner has more powers. So I agree with you when you say the powers bit, but I think instead of the CEO, it could be the elected mayor, which is more empowered.
Any more questions?
Thank you. First of all, I think you guys did a very good job in government, and I really hope you come back.
Thank you.
So my first question to you is there a remote possibility if, let's say, the BJP was to offer you an olive branch minus the Shinde camp, and I'll call them the camp, I'll not call them the Shiv Sena. What is your views on that?
Wait, he just took away my last question.
Sorry about that.
I'm glad. See, I mean, the fact is, basically in 2014, they were the ones who broke the alliance, saying we don't need the Sena anymore. We were Hindus back then, we are Hindus now. We hadn't left Hindutva, but they said, नहीं अभी आप हिंदू नहीं हो. तोड़ दी युति. जब ज़रूरत पड़ी, बुला लिया हमें, हम गए. दोस्ती निभाई, we were there with them for 25-30 years. We said, okay, let's mend the alliance and we'll get back with them. Got back with them. 2019, the pact was clear. We'll go with them for the Lok Sabha, for the Vidhan Sabha. Contest half and half, 145, and 2.5 years our CM, 2.5 years their CM. Had it been the case, the situation you see today, and thankfully, I'll say that we were not the persons to appoint Mr. Shinde as the Chief Minister. It would be very embarrassing now, seeing his track record. But would have been pretty much similar if, whatever things had happened. But they were the ones again who broke the pact. They made us contest on 124 seats instead of 145. They put up about 79 rebel candidates out of the 124 that we contested, and they pushed us away. Now, if you look at the past 2.5 years, the way that they've come at us as a family, the way they have come at our leaders, our karyakartas, with all the cases, with all the attempts to put them behind bars, the point is, where do you take politics to? How low can you get? Political fights are natural, alliances break, alliances happened in the history of our beautiful country. Political changes have happened, people have come together, people have hot parties, all of that is fine. But how vindictive do you make it? How low can you get before there is a U-turn? The point is, the olive branch, will it be dipped in poison or not, is really the question.
Well said.
Well said. Thank you.
Yeah, Ria, I've got to look at the questions. I've never had so many questions.
This is the
in any of
longest
the previous-
Q&A session we've ever had in the history of the Quorum Mumbai.
And see how generous I am, because I know a lot of the questions that I could have asked are being given away.
The thunder is being stolen.
I'm not a typical anchor. Just think about that.
I'm not a typical politician.
Please go ahead.
Thanks. Hi, Aditya. Thanks for being here. I think, you've when you were introduced, right, you were spoken about as this, the youth, right, talking about the new generation. And you've made a lot of comments about the party and the state and all that, but you kind of want to keep that aside. And, when you became minister, right, you kind of represented a generation. You were a lot more vocal, a lot more open, kind of talking about what the youth was. You were pushing climate change, which is something that Gen Z, millennials kind of hold in high regard, right? I think, since you have stepped out of your previous role, right, we haven't seen as much of that. And, kind of want to understand it from your perspective where you're sitting, right, that back when you had a portfolio, you represented something. Today, you're in the news for a whole lot of other reasons. So what does that mean kind of long term, right? Like what is the message that you can still give out to, and how is that kind of being reflected with the youth and individuals that are seeing themselves potentially as coming into politics and, actually making a difference?
So if you can ask her this question, because, when we first, or I think when it came from you, that let's have a conversation here, my first feedback was, yaar, politics kam baat karenge, let's speak about urban planning, let's speak about climate, because I'm not being asked questions on that. I'm not being given a forum, or there's no quorum to hear me on, climate action. And, in fact, this is an area of passion for me: tourism, climate change, and of course, urban planning. Now, I could have, back then, being my father's son, taken a ministry like industries or something else, but I obviously chose 3 ministries which were very relevant to us: environment, climate change, which we added climate change as a thing to, tourism, and of course, protocol ministry. Now, environment and tourism is, of course, a thing for the future, because tourism is one thing which is like a sponge sector for us. We can build employment on that. One of the changes that we made was to establish a hotel in our state. You needed about 80 permissions. We've brought that down to 10. You needed about 15 NOCs. We've brought that down to about 9 self-certifications. Environment, climate action, we were leading. And today, unfortunately, I can say that we are nowhere in that. Yesterday, again, I raised an adjournment motion in the House, in the Assembly, which has been reported by one newspaper today, I think Hindustan Times, where I've spoken about the horrible AQI that we've been facing as Mumbaikars for the past 3-4 years, 3-4 months. The point is, we don't have a full-time environment minister. We don't have a full-time tourism minister who's looking into tourism. For me, I've been interacting with all of these forums that I interacted with: C40, WRI, Climate Group, India Climate Collab, all of them. Today, Tamil Nadu is actually doing some great work in that space. I've been interacting with those guys. Delhi is doing some great work. Bihar is going on a good track. But unfortunately, Maharashtra is on a path that's dithering away from climate action. We had the Secretary for Transport going from here to COP27. In a forum of electric mobility, he's spoken about diesel buses and CNG, and I'm, hiding my face in front of the partners, because I'm like, what are you saying? The idea really is, of course, today we are fighting a political crisis. We're fighting a political fight which is more to do with the constitution, democracy. We are doing that. But if you look at all my speeches also, I have been raising issues about Mumbai's roads, footpaths, urban spaces, climate action, because I think that is an issue which is close to my heart, not just politically, but very selfishly. If I'm going to live in this state, if I'm going to live in this city, I need a better environment around me. I need better roads. I need better footpaths. I need better action on that. And you're absolutely right when you say that, I do not have, I probably not have voiced it as much as I did earlier, but that was the time I could only voice that, and I had a protocol about voicing about politics. Today I have to balance both, and as someone from the opposition, I have to point out the pitfalls of this unconstitutional government, as well as work on this. So I'm trying to do that. If you look at my Twitter timeline, if you look at my Instagram timeline, so my Twitter timeline has a lot about environment. My Instagram timeline also has some candidates because they get more likes. Then it has about environment, then it has about politics.
No, also I think that you're doing a political conversation today, and we are doing a political conversation today, because unless you have power and electoral approval, you can't, execute all of these things. So I think that's why it's essential to have this conversation at this point of time. Any more questions, or shall we? Because
I have the mic here.
Can we take a few more questions?
I'll just...
Okay, no. I will choose 3. Okay, 3. Aditya, you choose.
Okay.
You choose.
So
you choose.
Anyone.
I think
anyone.
This would be the right time for me to comment here, Aditya.
Mike?
Oh, there.
Right here.
There.
So since you talked a lot about climate change, I must firstly compliment you, because I am from the solar industry. And when you took that portfolio, we could convince the developers of Bombay, and today the second highest solar system in India is in Bombay, which was installed during your tenure, because the builders took environment as a serious topic. So thank you.
Till we don't make profits in environment and in the green space won't move ahead. So you need to make profits in that.
That's right. So I think that was a good halo effect you created. Secondly, because given your surname, you are often a target of nepotism, which has been a popular word around. But since you have a very obvious operative mind, and I think people can see your work, do you think having an internal elections to demonstrate that the people believe in
Very
your
good question.
leadership would put to rest that debate, and then you'll come out of that perception even stronger?
See, in terms of the surname debate, like I said, the Chief Minister is asking for it now. But the thing is, internal elections, if you see in what their complaint to the EC was that we did not have internal elections, actually every 5 years, every political party has to hold internal elections. It is video documented. In 2018, we had that, and it's submitted to the Election Commission. The Election Commission's reply, quite funnily, was, we haven't seen the video, we didn't know what was in the video. After they gave the order saying, you're undemocratic. So internal elections have to happen. Now in that, some political parties go by certain families, and that's been the case. Some political parties don't go by certain families. Now, it always depends on whether the people who align with that political party believe in that thought process or no. So we do have internal elections.
Are you open to the idea? Would you, for instance, we are seeing the fate of the Congress, right? The elections, now of course we have Mr. Kharge as the president, but there is this perception that really he's just a figurehead. Do you see family parties that have started by families and then inherited and run by families, no matter how good you may be, do you think that you need to make a point like this gentleman asked?
It depends. It depends.
Are you open to it?
I may be open to it, but again, the question really is, even if I am one person from, say, one particular family in one seat, I cannot contest on 400 assembly seats myself. I have to promote people who are new and from different backgrounds. So it doesn't matter whether the political party president or the head is from one family or not, as long as you have multiple people around you who are working with different backgrounds. And finally, today, we are in an age where you need to promote merit-based politics. In the age of social media, you will be noticed if you're doing good work. You will be shunted out if you're not doing good work. We've broken the barrier with social media. Of course, there's a lot of trolls and all of that happens. You've also broken a lot of barriers. For example, today, if you are, say, a politician from a particular party or you're an actor from a particular family, the people who either accept you or reject you, the most beautiful part about the young people today is people are not afraid to speak their mind. They will question you at the right time. I think that's a beautiful thing that has happened to our country.
Okay.
If I can ask a quick...
Go ahead.
Thanks, Aditya, for a very lively discussion. I just want to ask, how does the political funding happens in India, and do you think we need to bring in more transparency around it?
I think there's a lot of changes we need across the political spectrum, right from political funding to the way how parliaments work. Today, when I sit in the assembly, with all due respect to the assembly, we sit there for 8 hours, 9 hours. But does the government really take, and whichever side the government, we were in government for 2.5 years, there's a different illegal government right now. Do we really hear, for example, we have the supplementary demands. Abhi white book jo print hoke aata hai, whatever the opposition says or even your own MLA say, whatever is printed is going to be passed. So I think there needs to be a huge overhaul in the way politics happens in our country today, the way representation is made, whether population should be a ratio, population increase or decrease should be a ratio for a particular state to have the number of seats. Because I was reading this very interesting book today, the last week, South versus North, but it's by a data scientist, and he said that most of us in the southern states have implemented the policies of the government of India historically very well. So typically if you see the TFR of Kerala, Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra, Telangana, Maharashtra is lower than the replacement rates. Now, because of that, when 2026 comes around and we'll have delimitation of the seats for the Lok Sabha, our population would have gone down, because of which the Lok Sabha seats that we would have as representation would have gone down, and the states that have not implemented the policies would have gone higher.
Yeah.
So right from political funding to everything now, there are accusations of 6,000 rupees, 10,000 rupees being given as bribes for people to vote. Now, these are all accusations that happen. Whether electoral bonds are important, whether they're transparent or no, who gets the most of it, whose political funding has increased in the last 9 years, the maximum. These are all questions that will be asked at a certain point.
Okay, I think, last question? Okay.
Yeah. Hi, Aditya. I'm Kaiwan. I've always been very fascinated by your view to the tourism in India, in Bombay especially? What I heard was that you had a vision for, let's say, South Bombay, Kala Ghoda to be turned into a total tourism. I feel that in Bombay, tourism should be one of the biggest places to, make money, employment. It's very healthy for our city. And I think you had a fantastic approach to it. Is there any update on that, or?
I won't get an update from these guys.
Okay.
No, but I think they all...
See, the plan really was, when I spoke about Mumbai 24/7, the idea was simple, that Mumbai is a place that runs 24/7, works 24/7. Imagine if this place was up and open 24/7, you could walk in here, do your work. We could have this at 2 o'clock in the morning, and people who are up at 2 o'clock in the morning could interact with us. You could have gyms open, you could have spas open, you could have theatres open, cafes open, because Mumbai, anyway, if you go to Ayub's Roll, or if you go to Bachelor's or Amadou Center, it's open till 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning.
And that's what makes it such a safe city.
Exactly, right? Because people are out there. Now, Kala Ghoda was a place, or is a place where you have these small boutique restaurants that come up. And if we put cobble streets to that, now we had just put the tender, it's again put on stay. If you could let them have tables in the streets on Saturdays, Sundays, why not?
Everywhere in the world, I think that's what happens, right? And that's where the whole population and the trend is.
Yeah.
See, tourism is one of the biggest industries that Indians, we go everywhere. Let's say, go to Barcelona, you'll see La Ramblas on the whole street.
Yeah.
You go to Paris, you'll find everybody on the...
There are two perspectives in that. See, I believe that tourism is basically a vibe between either a thing to do or a place to stay, which is great. People who enjoy that zone in between is all tourism. And Mumbai has that naturally. You have right from a forest where you can spot leopards to a tiger safari to a lion safari. Coming down, you have a beautiful lake, you have a beautiful coastline. You've got the historical site of South Mumbai. You've got so many things in a city. Now, again, how do you monetize them for the people, for entrepreneurs, for people in businesses and for government? Because CSR mein kuch hone wala nahi hai. Sustainability ho in environment or tourism or anything, you need to earn money, you need to create jobs. Tourism is a spawn sector. So that was one. And of course, this whole vibe of Mumbai, as a Mumbaikar, when we tell the people that we are a safe city, why not use it for the benefit of the city? That was the whole idea.
And as you portrayed Shah Rukh Khan, so you are quite a Bollywood buff, and you are...
Yeah, Bollywood is here.
Yeah, so we can integrate Bollywood with the tourism, and we can...
I mean, see, anyway, people go and stand outside Galaxy, Mannat and Jalsa.
Correct.
Right? So, a simple thing like the viewing gallery we made outside BMC. So many people go and stand and click selfies. So
no, it is highly used. Every foreigner is standing outside there taking a photo.
So I'm going to...
And when you become chief minister,
when when?
It's very kind of you.
You will become chief minister. We want Bombay to be one of the best cities, tourist places.
Thank you.
Okay, I have one final question, and that is actually two. One is, do you think this passion for Mumbai that you have and your father had, and which is something we love, did it sort of distance you from the rest of Maharashtra politically?
Not at all. In fact, the passion for working may have distanced us from the real politic of things. But of course, if you look at the way we were looking at Mumbai, Mumbai was a place for implementation as a role model. But the same thing, for example, the Mumbai climate action we've made, Mumbai climate action plan.
Yeah.
In fact, it's 1 year today to that plan, and now it's about 6 months to it being shelved off. The same was being made for Pune. The same was being made for Kolhapur, for Solapur, Navi Mumbai, Nagpur, sustainability, electric buses. All of these things were being replicated everywhere.
So this was almost like a lab in a sense.
In the rural areas, we were working on multiple things, right? From Vikil to Pikil, whatever is sold will be sold.
Yeah.
Things like that to agro-tourism. Now, agro-tourism, Maharashtra is a huge hub for agro-tourism, which we started in 2020. It's built in 1.5 years. It's gone into thousands of agro-tourism sites. Historical sites, you've got almost everything here. And I think what we need to do is just promote our state better and love our state better.
Right. Final question. The last 2.5 years, I alluded to it in the beginning, it has been a trial by fire. When you look at your experience in these past 2.5 years, what is your take on your own strengths and weaknesses as a person? Because I'm sure there's been a lot of soul searching, and you're a poet.
I introduce myself now, after 2.5 years, as a former minister, former photographer, former poet.
And according to him, future chief minister. So, it's...
That I won't attach to myself whenever God wills, but you need to also ask my mom if she allows this. After this whole thing that we've gone through.
But any soul searching about, or even about the human condition, about people, is there something that you want to leave us with, like really an innermost thought about?
No, I think
the last 2.5
we
years?
obviously haven't had the time in the past 6 months to think about what's gone through, and sometimes I think that it's a nightmare, a bad dream, and you think that whether people can actually behave like this. People who you've worked with very closely, people who you've known for 20, 25 years, people who you thought were yours, people who would stand for you, you've stood for them in the toughest of times. And I know the cracks and the chinks in the armor for each and every person in them. People who you've spent jolly time with, suddenly to turn like that and speak about you like that, betray you when it's the weakest position for your family in terms of, my father's health, who was also the chief minister back then. To look at all of that, of course, is tough. But the point is, do you really get stuck in that? Or do you keep moving on and keep trusting people? I think the only answer is you keep trusting people, you keep doing good, because for us, we have done no wrong. We've not hurt anyone. We have done no wrong to these people. They have done. They will face their karma. We want to work for the people. People will accept us or reject us, but we'll keep doing what we did.
Aaditya Thackeray, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, one of the most articulate politicians in India today, and a person who truly, truly speaks for his generation. And on that note, we are all going to bounce.
Thank you.